Greetings and welcome back, everyone. This is The Angry Chicken. I'm Garrett, here as always with Jocelyn, and we are going to be talking about every single new elemental minion and one non-elemental minion, but still new, coming to Hearthstone Battlegrounds with the 18.4 patch. So with the addition of elementals, there was some very early chatter on Twitter about, are we still only removing one tribe, one minion type from a draft? And Cora was actually very quick to point out that no, from now on, they will be removing 2 minion types from a Battlegrounds draft because of just how many darn minion types there are in Battlegrounds. So that's the first thing that wasn't in the 18.4 notes. That's really important to know as you're heading into a game of Battlegrounds. Keep an eye on what minion types are actually in the draft pool, because now there will be 2 not represented, which is really important. There's a chance, Jocelyn, now that there'll be no beasts and no murlocs, which means no tokens on turn 1 in an entire lobby of Hearthstone or of Battlegrounds. That's nutty.
I'm actually really excited to see what that looks like, because, I mean, if you guys have been watching The Angry Chicken for a while now, you know that since the very early days of Battlegrounds, I've been saying it would be really nice to see what it looks like, because those tokens can be so important to your early game that it would be really nice to see what it's like not to have tokens in Battlegrounds. I've been saying, let's get rid of them. Let's see what that's like. And now we actually have a chance of a lobby without those 2 options. So I'm excited. That's going to be my favorite lobby, I think.
Now, are you
calling it now?
Are you ready to kick off elementals with the punniest make you want to die name ever?
Yeah, I I read this one and I was like, man, who did this?
So if you had an elemental, Joss, and it had a mechanic based around selling it, what would you name it?
Blingamental or something?
Well,
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Something with bling or cash or I don't know, because we have Blingtron, right?
I would have called it Brokamental, but yeah. But they went with Sellamental, and that's going to be kicking off our new elemental minions in 18.4. Sellamental is a tier 1 elemental minion with 2 attack, 2 health, and it reads, when you sell this, add a 2/2 elemental to your hand. So right off the bat, here we are with pseudo economy manipulation, because this basically only costs you 1 gold in the end. If you sell this and you eventually sell the 2/2 token that is generated in your hand by this.
Right, but it plays into the just whole theme of elementals, because a lot of the elemental mechanics revolve around how many you've played this turn. So versus the tokens that are generated with beasts or with murlocs, those ones take up a spot on your board and you have both of them at the same time, and then you sell straight from your board. This you have to actually, or I guess not have to, but you get the opportunity to play the elemental and kind of kick off that chain, which was the big mechanic that we weren't really sure how they might approach it in Battlegrounds, because so many of the elementals over on the constructed and standard side very much kind of take from the whole, if you did X last turn with an elemental, played, killed, whatever, then, you get some effect in your next turn. And we were like, how is that even going to translate to Battlegrounds? That seems a little bit convoluted. Well, it's all in one turn, and it is having to do with playing elementals. So this really feeds into that elemental engine within Battlegrounds. And also, like Garrett was saying, the economy that we're so used to seeing with the other tokens. But this isn't a token that impacts your board right away. You still have to wait till the next turn to play it out if that's what you want to do, and you have to sell this in order to even get it in the first place. So it's definitely an interesting take on tokens, and I really like it.
Yeah, I look at it as almost purely upside. Because they're in regular construction Hearthstone, there could be, and basically is, an upside to a body generating another body because if it puts a token in your hand, historically there's a mana cost associated with it, so you have to spend mana to then deploy that second body. That doesn't exist in Hearthstone Battlegrounds. There's no gold cost associated with actually deploying a minion from your hand. And so the only real downside to this that I can think of is you don't get Khadgar synergy. It's not going to be making a duplicate of that 2/2 and adding it to your hand, because that's not how Khadgar works. Khadgar cares about minions being generated on board.
Summoned,
Yeah, exactly. And so if you've ever been like me, a dirty Rafam all the time player, and been like, oh man, if I just had more space to actually generate some 1/1 Murloc tokens, because all these jerks are giving me 1/1 Murloc tokens, but they're smart enough not to give me 3 of them. Well, this is great, because you can actually just kind of hold on to that. It's going to be a lot, I think, more convenient to find triples of the 2/2 that Sellamental gives you in a roundabout way, while also just playing into what we're going to see here is kind of the most beating you over the head synergy with elementals, which is just getting synergy off how many elementals you can play in a turn.
Yeah.
So I love this. Also, the gold version adds 2 2/2s to your hand, not 1, which is kind of rad. Without looking in the notes, what hero immediately came to mind when you saw this minion?
Dancing Daryl.
Yes. Well done. It's the first thing my brain was just like, I've been kind of bored with Dancing Daryl. Never mind. No, I'm not anymore.
Yep. He just got amazing.
Yeah,
not that he wasn't great already, but this elemental Daryl synergy is crazy.
I'm going to be wanting to find this late game, as opposed to being bummed that I found token generators late game and having to find 2 board spaces to actually get full value out of those token generators on Daryl. I'm very excited about Sellamental. Refreshing Anomaly is up next. It's a tier 1 elemental with 1 attack, 3 health, and a battle cry that reads, your next refresh costs 0. Millhouse's best friend.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Millhouse is going to love this. You've got, I mean, everybody just like gets to be what, Nosdormu? Like,
yeah. So
it's his hero power in a minion, basically.
This. Millhouse loves it, and everyone else is totally on board.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you could always refresh once with your hero power as Nosdormu, and then get a second 0 cost refresh in
That's
a turn.
That's a good point. Hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought of it. Don't know why. I guess I'm dumb.
He gets to double dip.
Yeah. Yeah. And the golden version is your next 2 refreshes. And this, like, it doesn't even have to be this turn. It doesn't say this turn. You can play this and bank it and, utilize it at the end of, at the beginning of your next turn or whatever, your next refresh. Maybe your next turn, you get the most perfect, beautiful offering for Bob and you don't refresh. You still don't lose out on this discount.
Yeah.
It's great. Unless you're Nosdormu, then you would miss out on this discount. But, yeah, I'm all about this minion. And it's also mercifully pretty straightforward. So let's talk about Party Elemental, a tier 2 elemental with 2 attack, 2 health, and reads, after you play an elemental, give another random friendly elemental +1/+1. So
again, very much wanting to play as many elementals as you can.
Yes. Yeah. Like super obvious synergy with Sellamental and with Refreshing Anomaly, and we are only 3 minions deep into this now.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the party rock strategy, which I love. And that's playing Party Elemental alongside Molten Rock, which is the next tier 2 elemental minion. Taunt, after you play an elemental, gain 1 health. It's a 2/3 base stats. So yeah, once you start getting Party Elemental and Molten Rock together, every day we're shuffling.
And for anyone under the age of 25, you may need to go Google what the hell that even means.
Oh, come on. Everybody knows Party Rock. Don't even start with me.
Jocelyn, I don't even want to get into how old that song actually is.
Oh.
But yes, I'm very excited to be party rocking as well. I mean, this all makes sense. You look at Molten Rock, you look at Party Elemental. Party Elemental is going to be dishing out +1/+1 randomly to anything other than itself. Molten Rock is going to gain +1 health. Both of these are triggered off of playing elementals. The tier 1 elementals either make their own elementals that you can then sell for additional gold to buy more things, or make your refresh free so that you can find more elementals consistently. Like, it's just so clear the path that elementals are leading you down. and I love it.
Yeah, I really like how these two work together because they both want you to do the same thing, which means if you can get Party Elemental and Molten Rock on the same board, then you are doing one thing by playing an elemental from hand and just cycling through, right? And getting the benefit of both of your tier 2 minions every single time you play something. So this is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I would want to stay on 2 had I not seen what comes down the line with Elemental. I'm like, this seems strong enough. I kind of want to just try abusing these 2 minions along with the tier 1 roster. But there's so many more elementals and interesting effects on them to talk about. Let's move right along and get into tier 3 with Stasis Elemental. Tier 3 elemental with 4 attack, 4 health, and a battle cry that reads, add another random elemental to Bob's Tavern and freeze it. So a little bit of Flurgle effect going on with like guaranteeing you're going to find an elemental, but also like, I guess the best part about Galakrond?
Yeah, I was going to say, again, we're seeing hero powers kind of tweaked a little bit and then added into these elementals and, you know, manipulated, smooshed together and creating some really interesting play styles. I mean, this seems really great. Like, hey, I'm playing an elemental, which is what my entire tribe wants to do. I am then on top of that going to be adding another elemental to potentially buy that turn or to hold over and buy next turn to play. Like, so I'm doing one thing, prepping to do another thing, keeping the chain going. Like this fits so well into the curve of a tavern basically, and takes the worst part of Battlegrounds, which is Bob's random offerings, and says, hey, you don't want random stuff. You want to keep the elemental chain going? Then, you know, here you go. Stasis Elemental. Take the random out of Bob's Tavern.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is very interesting to be like intentionally pulling back from the inconsistency that is a drafting game like Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
Continuing right along with tier 3, Arcane Assistant is another tier 3 elemental with 3 attack and 2 health, and a battle cry that reads, give your other elementals +1/+1. It's a board-wide battle cry. This is very much a staple of basically every minion type that currently exists.
Yeah, this is the most basic of all of the elementals, I think. It's just, this is the elemental version of anything that you've had in any of the other classes, any of the battle cry buffs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great for Amalgadon. You know, nice little boon to Kalagos, although we could probably do an entire video just about what does this mean for Battlecry count and Kalagos, because there's going to be lobbies where it's going to be a little dangerous, I think, to try and finish out with a Kalagos Dragon comp. But I don't want to go there right now. But yeah, this is super straightforward minion. Gonna need it. And if you've got either Molten Rock or Party Elemental on board, there's an extra added boon to deploying your Arcane Assistant for this board-wide battle cry for elementals. So let's keep going right along, Joss, and talk about Crackling Cyclone, the final tier 3 elemental. It has 4 attack, 1 health, Divine Shield, and Wind Fury.
Yeah, we've had Wind Fury in Battlegrounds before, but Wind Fury is now with Alakir, the hero that we talked about in our previous video, as well as now Crackling Cyclone and a couple of others. Wind Fury seems to be up there in terms of flavor for elementals. So we only, I guess, is the pirate dude the only guy right now? Oh, and then I guess it's also a random adapt that you could possibly get off of your Amalgadon. But that's tier 6. So Wind Fury's been few and far between. Oh, and Zap. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Zap's been the OG since the
Wind
beginning.
Fury.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like, my brain focuses more on the Divine Shield because I think it's also because it's a tier 3 minion. And that's where I think about strong kind of minion tribe synergistic drafting kind of being solidified is through things like Deflectobot or Bronze Warden tend to lead me down the mech, the dragon, or the Divine Shield path. If I'm doing any of those 3, it's kind of on the back of those minions. And I think at least kind of by itself in a vacuum, like comparing Crackling Cyclone to Warden and Deflecto, I think it's the least powerful Because Bronze Warden, I think there's something to be said about the reborn value of it.
Yeah, the reborn's really important.
Yeah, even though it's literally half the attack. But, well, no, because of the reborn and the divine shield now, it kind of comes out the wash there. And then also Deflectobot has higher potential upside where you could get way more divine shields out of it, providing attacks go in your favor. But like, I still think Crackling Cyclone is strong, and I think divine shield in really any minion type has proven to be strong over the history of Battlegrounds. So, I mean, it's basically in most cases guaranteed to get both attacks. There's, ghoul shenanigans, or if you for some reason gave Crackling Cyclone taunt, you don't attack first, it's not guaranteed to get both attacks. But
you can also buff it up a lot because of all the things that we've talked about so far with elementals. And I do also think it's worth mentioning the golden version of Crackling Cyclone, because it has divine shield and mega wind fury. And so if you guys aren't familiar with the idea of mega wind fury from standard, then it's 4 attacks instead of 2. It just keeps going forever and ever and ever.
Because Zap is, I guess, the only minion that can really have any chance of it, because the Dapt on Malgadon doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I think the pirate can too, if you get the golden.
Yeah. Sorry,
6/7 Wind Fury pirate. But yeah,
I keep forgetting about
it's something that we, something that you guys may not be aware of if you've never, tripled one of the Wind Fury minions. That's what Mega Wind Fury is 4 attacks instead of 2.
Yeah, it seems like with the buff potential of Elemental, Crackling Cyclone looks scary, to be honest. But evaluating it as like a naked minion itself, I think it falls underneath the 2 other tier 3 divine shield minions, but I still really like this minion a lot.
Yeah.
Let's get into tier 4 with Whirlwind Tempest, another elemental with 6 attack, 6 health, and reads, your minions with Wind Fury, Crackling Cyclone, where you at, have Mega Wind Fury.
Which is really kind of cool, because this makes me think that maybe we'll end up with like Wind Fury being a comp. Like, we've got some elementals, like we already mentioned Zap, and we already mentioned Pirate Dude, whose name I can't remember, but we've mentioned him like 4 times now. But there are some Wind Fury minions now in Battlegrounds, and I would love to see Wind Fury become a comp the same way that we saw Divine Shield and Death Rattle, and even minions with no minion type when Tyrion was still in the game. I want to see those things come together and be a comp. So yeah, I'm kind of stoked to try out Wind Fury and see if that's actually viable.
It'd be very cool and potentially game breaking and terrifying and keep you up at night if we start getting whirlwind minions and other minion types that we don't currently have whirlwind minions in, because then there would be a side strategy of going Menagerie Whirlwind.
Yes.
Which at the moment isn't really possible because Zap doesn't have a minion type, and it's also just Tavern tier 6. You can't depend on finding Zap. So we're going to have just the one elemental with Wind Fury.
Wind Fury, yeah. The elemental's name is Whirlwind Tempest. So yeah, we could call it a whirlwind build too. But the other thing we should mention with the golden version of this one is that the text on it doesn't actually change. So when you're actually making this one golden, it still says the same thing. There's no super ultra mega 8 attack Wind Fury.
It's just a 12/12.
Although that's what I would hope it would be called. Super ultra mega Wind Fury.
I would prefer all the Wind Fury.
Oh, I like that too.
That would be good. That would be solid. Keeping tier 4 going is Wildfire Elemental. I trust I don't need to specify that is an elemental at this point. It has 7 attack, 3 health, and reads, after this attacks and kills a minion, deal excess damage to a random adjacent minion. This is Trample-esque if you're a Magic player.
Yeah, also very similar to the cleave mechanics, except that it is not necessarily guaranteed. But yeah, it's a one-way extra cleave.
It's overkillish.
Yeah. Overcleave.
Overcleave. Wow. How did I not find that? Well done. All the internet points to Jocelyn for that one. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of overkill in that, like, because overkill doesn't get its effect if you deal exactly lethal, and this doesn't either. Like, if you do if you deal exactly lethal damage with Wildfire Elemental, you're getting no upside to this effect. But I still like this. And I mean, it's on the same tavern tier as Hydra. So, and even though it is not specifically cleave, it is cleave-like. So I kind of want to make that comparison. And this has so much more attack than Hydra.
It does have a lot more attack. And not only that, but again, with the way that elementals work, it's likely to grow very quickly. So I think that that's another point in its favor over potentially Hydra. The only thing that kind of Hydra has to its advantage is that Hydra does hit both sides, same as the mech that I'm also totally blanking on right now. But they do hit both sides. Now, you can position to counter cleave and, like only put one minion beside your taunt and things like that, like put your taunts on the end. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is going to get countered the same way, but I think can potentially be more powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's first up in your attack lineup, it's probably going to that taunt all the way to the right. All the more reason not to put your important minions right next to your taunt all the way to the right.
Yep.
So just keep an eye out on all of that. But yeah, this is an interesting minion that with the buff synergies that are lousy across elementals is one to keep an eye on. Are you ready for our only non-elemental?
I am. I'm psyched about this, and I'm kind of surprised it took them this long, to be honest.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's called Deadly Spore. It's a tier 4, 1 attack, 1 health minion that simply reads poisonous.
Yeah, there's no tribe, which I actually really like, because by making this free of minion type, it means essentially you can't make this like a Murloc or an Amalgadon or whatever and have it be super huge and stick around a whole bunch. This very much feels like it's meant to be a specific target to early big minions. Like you're having a problem with, say, Pogos. Just pulling that example right off the top of my head out of nowhere. But let's say that you have, someone who has very big minions very early. This is now 2 tiers earlier than what you could have gotten with my Exna. Also is going to be in every single lobby. And on top of that, you don't have to try to find 2 minions like a Murloc and a Toxfin to make it stick. So this is just 3 gold, put some poisonous on your board, and can't be made to be ginormous, which I think is also very healthy.
Yeah. I guess my brain starts to go into, do I like the idea of this minion possibly diluting the draft pool as a hate card, right? Like this is basically a tech card, if you want to use. I was going to say, can
we call it a tech card?
I feel the current opinions sort of thing, but regarding Pogo builds, hate card is a more accurate terminology.
Yeah, definitely. But I like having cards that are just neutral and available in every draft that play a specific role in Battlegrounds, so that it makes sure that you're not being necessarily like when they have a minion type associated with them, then it has the potential to either skew you one way or another in terms of if you're already going down, say, the Murloc path or the Beast path, then you're not really giving anything up by using those. This puts everybody kind of on the same playing field. It's like if you want poisonous at this point in the game, you're giving up a spot that you can't then use for your battle cries, or that won't get buffed up when you're doing things for the rest of your comp. Like it's an actual competitive decision you have to make. And I think that that's healthier than giving, like, say, every tribe a poisonous minion.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way as well. My other concern, though, is that drafting Unstable Ghoul kind of counters this counter.
And that's another, we talked about this a little bit in the other video, talking about heroes and seeing where they could potentially go. I think if we do see ghouls start to be used, although that is another tech, it's like a tech against your tech, which again is another layer to competitive, I guess, interest for me. Like, I think that's like super interesting when you're looking at those kind of counter strategies. But that might be something that they look at, is because the golden version is just a 2/2. So basically, like, make the golden version the normal version and make the golden version a 4/4. You know, like, I think you could just, if ghoul ends up being a thing, you could always just bump this up to a 2/2. And its core purpose isn't lost.
Yeah,
Although
or
again, if you're having to pick Ghoul, although Ghoul also counters Divine Shield, so it has a little bit more usefulness than just a 1/1 poisonous minion. But I do think that if you're forcing your opponent to then choose Ghoul and give up one of their spots for something that could be more useful, especially late game, then maybe there's something to be said about that as well. So, but they have room to tweak this because it starts as a 1/1, which is obviously ridiculously low stats for a tier 4 minion. Like you're paying a lot for poisonous.
Yeah, but you really need, if you need this, you need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what this comes down to. So I find it interesting. And then, so we now have this, we now have Unstable Ghoul, which are really the two only tech cards that we've seen. And so I'm curious how much room there is in this draft pool for tech cards before it starts feeling like, oh, I would like to draft my minion type, please. I'd like to draft my synergy and not just my tech. I don't think we're there yet. But it's a thought that entered my mind. especially with this at tier 4, because as you go up tavern tiers, there's less and less of each minion being offered. So I think with it being all the way up in 4, it has a whole lot less of an effect than something like Ghoul down at the earlier tavern tier. So I think this is fine. Agreed. Major Domo Executus continues tier 4 at 6 attack, 3 health, and reads, at the end of your turn, give your leftmost minion +1/+1 for each elemental you played this turn.
So again, playing with the positioning on the board, playing with how many elementals that you've had. And again, this is tier 4, which seems maybe like early to me for these kind of effects, but interesting.
Well, pirates have the pirate that has an effect very similar to this at tier 4.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I had forgotten about that's the one when they attack, they get buffed, right?
No, I'm talking about the one that buffs +1/+1 for every pirate you purchase this turn.
Oh, okay. Oh, every time you play a pirate. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, well, it's purchase, not play, which is where the whole like APM economy pirates comes from. Well, there are multiple moving pieces of that, but yeah. So to me, I think Major Domo is kind of right where I would explain. The thing, though, is that you get essentially endless value from Major Domo just being on your board, whereas that pirate, you need to find one every turn if you're continually trying to get that buff. Whereas Major Domo just chills on your board, and as long as you're playing elementals, you're getting big buffs. He's happy.
Although, he's not buffing himself, though. He's buffing the leftmost minion, which is interesting. So you can, I guess, like move. Oh no, wait! At the end of your turn, So again, that's going to be like working really well with Alakir, which is then. So if you're buffing with Major Domo. Why am I failing on this name so hard? If you're buffing with Executus, then that minion at the end of your turn is also going to get Wind Fury, Taunt, and Divine Shield. So there's a whole lot of synergy there with Alakir, the new hero that's been announced. So I think it's cool.
All I learned from that is that apparently Major Domos are not a rank in Canada.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, this seems strong, and is also going to help super buff my minions with Ragnaros. Nomi Kitchen Nightmare.
Oh man, I hate this dude in Legion.
If you played World of Warcraft in Legion, you find this as amusing as Jocelyn and I do.
Yeah.
Kicks off tier 5. Nomi is not himself an elemental because he truly is useless in all aspects. In every Warcraft universe, Nomi shows up and Nomi is useless. But Nomi does have quite a bit of elemental synergy because Nomi is a tier 5, 4 attack, 4 health minion that reads, after you play an elemental, elementals in Bob's Tavern have +4/+4 for the rest of the game.
+1/+1.
Did I say +4/+4?
You said +4/+4. I was like, wait, what? Did he get buffed? Just
you ever read something and your eyes just wander to the bigger numbers on the thing that you're reading?
Yeah.
Apologies. Yeah. So again, this is like Major Domo. Major Domo just lives on your board, and as you play elementals, it kind of secretly is buffing a Major Domo at the end turn. Poof, bam, big +1/+1 for however many minions you played happens. That's happening with Nomi here. Every time you play an elemental, you're going to be buffing the elementals in Bob's Tavern by 1/1. So you could get this effect multiple times in the same turn, especially if you're finding a concerning amount of Sellamental's.
Yeah. And then, so if I understand correctly, do you have to still have Nomi on your board, or could you have a big elemental turn, then sell Nomi and still have the buff?
Correct.
Because it very specifically says rest of the game. So you can,
rest of the game. I think you could have yeah.
So you don't have Nomi himself doesn't have to hang around.
Yeah, I mean, think about it like Bran in that way, because how many times have you found yourself in a later game position where you find Bran and you find a bunch of battle cries, and so you burn them all up, and you're like, I think I'm done with you, Bran. I need to make a big play here, so I'm going to dump you for that one extra gold to get this other missing piece of my composition. And I think, I think you could find yourself in that exact same position here with Nomi, of just being like, well, I've been sitting on all these friggin' Sellementals and I haven't gone off with them yet, but I just found a Nomi, so I'm going to deploy him and I'm going to deploy all my Sellementals, and then I'm just going to drop Nomi and pick up something else that fits in better and gives me more value right here and now.
Yeah.
So there's this. And also because Nomi is in and of himself not an elemental, he's not eating up the random buffs from your party rock comp.
Yep.
Like, God, the design of this set is, I love it. If you can't tell I'm excited, I'm excited. It's very cool. It is unique while still drawing on certain things that we've seen in Battlegrounds already. And like the economy manipulation. You can play pirates and not play APM pirates. I'm not sure you can play elementals and not play APM elementals.
It definitely is going to reward those people who can not only think fast, but move fast. So not me.
Yeah. So I'm going to be looking to pick up Nomi. Lil Rag continues tier 5. Lil Rag is, as you would hope, an elemental with 4 attack, 4 health, and reads, after you play an elemental, give a friendly minion stats equal to the elemental's tavern tier.
Which, considering as you increase tavern tier, the cost of your minions doesn't increase, and you're getting Little Rag late game, this seems really pretty crazy, right?
It does. So this has to be random, even though it doesn't say random.
I would think it would be random.
This is one of those times
based
where
on like how would that even work?
Yeah, this is one of those times where the thought has not entered my mind until the second I sat down to record this video. But yeah, we've never had anything before where it's like triggered and then you get a targeting reticule from a minion that's already on the board to go do a thing. So
yeah, and I feel like just looking at the text on this card, because there's a lot of text. We're into line 4 on this Hearthstone card, which is a lot of Hearthstone text. So I feel like maybe they just didn't have room to write random without it putting the word elemental down onto the next line and running into the 4s of the attack and health on this minion. Like, I think they just maybe couldn't fit it.
Yeah. Also, when Lil Rag is golden, they have to add the word twice to the end of Lil Rag's card text, which really fills out the card. So yeah, I'm assuming. So there could be a potential downside of landing these buffs on your Sellementals if you're just trying to cycle a bunch of 1 or 2/2s. But I feel like that's a risk worth taking.
Yes, yeah.
Especially if you like also have a major Domo on the board. Like, all right, whatever. You're still pumping up your major Domo effect on top of getting random good buffs around with Lil Rag. So boy, my fingers are going to hurt. I see carpal tunnel in my elemental future. Let's close out tier 5 with Tavern Tempest, a 4/4 elemental with a battle cry that reads, add another random elemental to your hand. Which again, to your hand, which means you get to play it, and all of the buffs in elemental is based on playing them. So
yeah, so regardless of what you get off of Tavern Tempest, and I kind of from the card wording assume that Tavern Tempest can't grant you another Tavern Tempest. I think that's probably not in the pool. So then, which is good, because then you can't just, go like infinite and break the economy and everything of the game. So yeah, which is great, because then, like you said, playing elementals is the way that this minion type works. That's what they take advantage of. And so basically when you buy this and play this, you're getting a 2-for-1.
More economy manipulation. I like it. I mean, the minion itself is extremely bland. It's just a 4/4.
Oh yeah, I don't think you ever keep this on your board. You play it for the battle cry and you sell it.
Yeah, it's a cycle minion for your elemental cycling synergies, and that's it. So it's an interesting design. I like that this is so high up. Like this is strange at tier 5. But because of the synergies that can happen with one-offs that live on your board in elementals, it makes sense to me. But also could be potentially a candidate for going down to Tavern tier.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that this is one of those wait and see cards that we maybe see going down a Tavern tier in the future once they see how powerful elementals are. Because I think they want elementals to be good. They want people to enjoy playing them. Because I'm assuming that elementals are going to get the pirate treatment where for the first few weeks or maybe month or whatever, they're in every single lobby. So they want elementals to be interesting, but definitely not too overpowered. So yeah, I think this might be a future tweak, is to push this down to tier 4.
Let's kick off, let's kick off tier 6.
Lots of minions today, Garrett. Lots of minions.
Yeah. So tier 6 is starting with Lieutenant Garr, a tier 6 elemental with 8 attack and 1 health. Has taunt and reads, after you play an elemental, gain +1 health for each elemental you have, which is why maybe you would consider dumping Nomi.
Yeah, so this guy is going to get a real big booty real quick.
Yep. And then you could also, if you're playing Rag, stick him in the far left or far right. If you're playing Marge or Domo, definitely stick him in the far left. Lieutenant Garr could grow very, very quickly.
Yeah, and given the way that elementals kind of all work together, this very much feels like a minion type that's going to take advantage of having a whole board full of the same thing. Pretty much everything has the elemental tag, so you're not even going down, say, the dragon route, which has Nadina, which is neutral. You're very much just everything on your board's going to be an elemental. So this is going to be, and it itself is an elemental. This could potentially be going up every single time you play an elemental by 7 every time, which, yeah, it's going to add up really quickly.
Yeah, it's absolutely nutty. And you probably won't draft this if you're not going elemental.
Yeah.
So, makes a lot of sense. And again, pretty straightforward here. And then finally, Gentle Genie is capping out all 20 of the new minions we just talked about at tier 6, has 6 attack, 8 health, is an elemental itself, has taunt, and a death rattle that reads, summon another random elemental and add a copy of it to your hand. We aren't seeing any elementals or anything in the elemental tribe that cares about summoning elementals mid-combat. So the copy of an elemental getting added to your hand is where the synergy comes from, is where the value comes from on Genie. And I think that's absolutely fine. This card essentially pays for itself after 2 combat phases, only 1 combat phase if it summons itself because it's an elemental.
Yeah.
So to me, like, again, on paper, having not played elemental yet, this sure looks worth it.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's so many elemental, or not so many, but there's a few elementals that will generate more elementals for you as they are played or sold. So I think there's a whole lot here that, again, is just going to feed that elemental engine. And I'm really excited by the design of this minion type. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to play, and it feels just the same, only different as some of the other minion types that we have in Battlegrounds right now. So it's very much a new take without breaking the mode. And it also feels like it keeps the heart of elementals and what they are in Constructed without, saying you have to have it in your hand, much the same as dragons, where most dragon things in Constructed have to have them in your hand. They've managed to kind of bridge the gap between Constructed and Battlegrounds by making something that feels very similar, but reacts differently because of the mechanics of the mode. So I'm excited about the elemental package just in general. I think this looks like a really fun new way to play Battlegrounds.
Yeah, me too. My only complaint is everyone's going to be drafting them in every lobby for, I feel like, the first 2 weeks. So it'll probably be a little while before I can naturally chase them.
Learn them. Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Although at the same time, we're getting to rank reset, so I think everyone's going to be out for blood.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm just going to be that jerk, just being like, I'm just going to go a safe mech build every chance I get. And not Jandis mech build. Like, I mean, like normal, mortal mech build. Puny, mortal mech build is where I'm going to be going. So there you have it. There are all 20 new minions coming to Hearthstone Battlegrounds. I can't wait to talk about having actually gotten to play with these new heroes and these new minions in a week's time. It'll be fun. Gonna have a good time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely no salt whatsoever. So, if you enjoyed this chat, leave us a comment below, hit like, subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell so you actually are notified when we put up new videos. And if you really like what we're doing and you want to support us, well, we have a Patreon. So you can go over to patreon.com/TAC, and we can't thank those of you supporting us over there enough for your support, because it really does help us put the time into this content that it takes. And now that we're doing YouTube videos, oh boy, does it take some time.
It's worth it though.
Oh,
it's fun. I've enjoyed my learning experience. I don't know if Garrett's enjoyed being a teacher, but
oh, me getting to tell people things they don't know that I do know? I love it. Are you kidding me? It's like Power Trip Disneyland. It's fantastic. So anyways, folks, hope you enjoyed this. If you want to write in outside of leaving a comment in the YouTube below, do so at tacpodcast@gmail.com. That's going to wrap it up for this video. And until next time, job's done.
Job's done.